You're listening to The Harmony of We, a space for remembering what we already are together. I'm Greg Kuiper, counselor, author, and fellow traveler in this ongoing field of being human. This podcast isn't about fixing. It's not about getting relationships right. It's about coming into resonance with yourself, with each other, and with the presence that lives in between. This is where the book Elationship, The Harmony of We continues, in breath, in story, and in shared awareness. Welcome. If you're joining me again after the first episode, thank you for returning. And if this is your first time here, you're arriving right on time. Today, I want to introduce a word that may feel unfamiliar at first. Might even feel a little strange on the tongue. That's okay. The word is elationship. Not relationship, but elationship. Now, I didn't create this word to be clever or different. And to be fair, I didn't come up with it at all. There's a story where it came from that will help you to know what a relationship really means. For quite some time, I had an idea for a book that I wanted to write to share some of the feelings of years of working with individuals and couples navigating relationships. And my philosophy around this was different. I had studied and trained intensely in relationship and family system modalities and put them to use in my practice. I always felt like there's something missing. It was like an authenticity for me. Missing in working with people on fixing relationships. What emerged for me was a knowing that the right word for changing relationship dynamics was healing, not fixing. Fixing implies something is broken and needs correction. There is a problem to solve. There is a right way things should be. One or both partners are doing something wrong. The goal of fixing is repair of dysfunction. Fixing focuses on symptoms, behaviors, conflict patterns, communication errors. This path seems so limiting to me. It implies blame. It feels mechanical. Seems to ignore deeper emotional wounds. And it focuses really on treating symptoms rather than roots. Healing, on the other hand, indicates nothing is fundamentally broken, but something is hurting, disconnected, or unmet. Healing assumes that reactions we have make sense in context, that pain has history. Our systems adapt for survival. The goal with healing is integration and reconnection. Healing focuses on wounds, nervous system safety, attachment, emotional experience, and meaning. Healing addresses root causes. It reduces shame and blame, and it deepens intimacy and creates lasting transformation. And it supports nervous system regulation. Fixing says, let's change what we're doing. Healing says, let's understand what you're experiencing. Fixing often lives in, how do I change you? Healing lives in, how do we understand what's happening between us? The path of healing versus fixing can generally be slower, and it's certainly less linear, and it can be a little abstract to some for a while. It still requires behavioral change, But the path to realizing and making that change becomes a deeper knowing rather than information to be absorbed, rehearsed, and used. So, this was the background for the book Elationship, the Harmony of We. There are literally tens of thousands of books published to fix relationships. I did not want to write another one. I had a different take. So, backing up a little bit here, I've always been an admirer of the writings of Alan Cohen. He's an award winning, best selling spiritual self help author and coach. And after meeting him at a conference, I became a student of his, taking a number of courses he offered and becoming a holistic life coach under his training and tutelage. He became a valued teacher for me and a mentor, a good friend. One of the courses I took was on becoming a writer and how to publish your first book. There were a lot of people in this class, but I like to think that Alan took an interest in what I was producing, offering some personal insight and help. From that launching pad, I immersed myself in the writing. And I have to tell you, writing your first book is not only challenging, but an emotional roller coaster. One day you read what you've got and you think, wow, this is really good. The next time you look at it, you go, oh my God, what a bunch of crap. Back and forth, back and forth. I eventually finished a first draft. I think it was a good read, but not sure. I shared it with a couple of colleagues, and their initial response was positive. And at some point, I casually mentioned it to Alan, and he said that he would like to read it. I can still remember that moment. My mentor and someone I admired deeply wanted to read this draft. I haven't even, I was scared to even ask him to. I remember anxiously awaiting his response as I continued editing the book. And then one day I got an email from Alan. And he said, Greg, this book isn't great. It's magnificent. And it has to be put out there. Magnificent. I'll never forget that word coming from him. Hearing that was certainly all I needed to continue getting this book published. So earlier, we were talking about the word relationship and how it came about. And I'm finally coming back around to that. I had struggled for quite some time with the title for the book. I didn't want it to even remotely sound self helpy, but everything I was coming up with had that feel to it. During the course of the writing, the theme, the harmony of we, had evolved, and I knew I wanted that theme to be a part of the title, but it felt more like a subtitle. I had involved Alan in what I was going through, and as an author, he related. The title of the book is important and needs to be catchy. We tossed around a number of ideas, but nothing really took hold. I needed that grabber title. One day I got an email from Alan and he said, what about Elationship? Wow. I knew instantly that was it. Elationship, the harmony of we. So once again, thank you, Alan, from the bottom of my heart. I had realized the word relationship stopped helping me see clearly. It had become crowded, heavy, overloaded with expectations. If you're like me, when you hear the word relationship, you immediately think about roles and responsibilities. Who's doing what? Who's not doing enough? What needs to change? What needs to be worked on? Relationships become projects or problems or performances. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with skills or communication tools, I began to notice something important. People could do all the right things and still feel profoundly disconnected. So I started listening differently. Before there are roles, before there are agreements, before there are conversations about communication or needs, there is something else present. It's already there. A field, an energetic, emotional, relational space that forms the moment two people come into contact. You felt this. You've walked into a room and sensed tension before a word was spoken. You've sat quietly with someone and felt deeply understood without saying anything. You've had conversations where the words sounded fine, but something underneath it felt off. That something is what I'm pointing to with the word relationship. Relationship is what's happening before we start doing relationship. Whenever two people come together, something new is created. A we, not you, not me, but something between. And that we carries emotional history, nervous system responses, longing, fear, hope. It's alive and it's responsive. Most relational pain doesn't come from bad intentions. It comes from a we space that has lost attunement. Attunement, that mutual reciprocal exchange of sensitivities. When we only talk about relationships, we tend to focus on behavior, communication, problem solving. When we talk about relationship, we begin to notice presence, safety, resonance, attunement. We stop asking, how do I fix this? And begin asking, what's happening between us right now? That shift changes everything. I'd like to invite you into a small moment of reflection here. Think of someone in your life, someone you care about. Now, don't think about what you talk about with them and don't think about being with them. Just don't think about the story of the relationship. Instead, I just want you to notice how your body feels when you imagine being with them. Is there ease, tightness, warmth, distance? This sensation isn't coming from words or behaviors. It's coming from the field between you. That's relationship. In the weeks ahead, we'll keep returning to this idea, not as a concept to master, but as a space to feel into. For now, here's your homework. I invite you to simply notice. Don't analyze, don't think, just notice how it feels to be with people. What happens in silence? And what shifts when you slow down? Next time, we'll explore why so many of us are trying to fix what was never broken and what healing is actually asking of us. Until then, be gentle with the space between you and others. See you next time.